Hello all, this is grade 11 S Sciences for academic year 2020-2021. This is the first session, which is about the genetic polymorphism. We're going to start our first session talking about the polymorphism and the biological diversity and the uniqueness of the individual. First of all, this is an animal cell. All of you know that the animal cell contains a nucleus that's found inside the cytoplasm and it's surrounded by a cell membrane. This is an animal cell. This is the title and drawn inside the box. Where is the genetic information found? Where it is located? So first we have this experiment. Let's start this experiment step by step. How do the scientists prove that the nucleus is the carrier of the genetic information? How do they prove this? Okay? How do they prove that the nucleus is the carrier of the genetic information? They did an experiment. This experiment including what? Including bringing 3 mice. These 3 mice, they are a white, black, and a gray one. They are done under experiment. We have the black mouse, we have the white mouse, and we have the gray. So we extract the nucleus of the cell from the embryonic cell from the black, and we inject it or we transplant it into the white mouse cell, which has no nucleus. So we get the cell of the white mouse and we get rid of the nucleus, and then we transplant them, the nucleus from the black, the cytoplasm and the cell membrane from the white, and we transplant them into each other, and then we transplant it into the gray. What will be the results? Let's start analyzing this information. Analysis for this information. After injecting the nucleus of the cell of the black one, so we get the nucleus of the black mouse cell. We inject it into the unnucleated cell of the white. So the cell of the white is unnucleated, it doesn't contain a nucleus. And then we transplant the zygote into the gray mouse. A black baby mouse is born. So we have a black baby mouse. What does this indicate? This indicates that the genetic information coding for the fur color doesn't depend on the cytoplasm or the uterus of the gray, but rather it depends on the nucleus. That's why it gives the color, which is black. So here we get a cell from the black, we extracted the nucleus, we put this nucleus into the unnucleated cell taken from the white mouse, and then we inject them and transplant them into the uterus of the gray. So the color and the final result was that we have a black mouse. So here we can deduce that the genetic information doesn't depend on the cytoplasm or the cell membrane, and it doesn't depend on the uterus from the gray, but rather it depends on the nucleus. So here we deduce that the nucleus is the carrier of the genetic information, meaning that the nucleus carries the genetic information. This is the structure of the cell. You know that we have cell membrane, we have the nuclear membrane, the vacuole for storage, mitochondria, which is the source of energy inside the cell, and we have the cytoplasm. So if you have any question, please leave it till the end. The end will answer all the questions. So chromosomes. Chromosomes, what are the chromosomes? Chromosomes, they are X-shaped structures that are found in the nucleus, and they are responsible for carrying genetic information. So these are the chromosomes, X-shaped structures found in the nucleus and responsible for carrying genetic information. This is the structure of the chromosome. Here we have the short arm that are called the P arm. Centromere is the attachment site of the 2 sister chromatids together, and the long arm, which are called the Q arms. Every one of these is called a sister chromatid. The attachment site of these 2 chromatids are called the centromere. Each chromosome is made up of DNA and proteins. These proteins are called histones and non-histones. Each chromosome is made of 2 identical sister chromatids held together at a centromere. Each chromatid has a short arm and a long arm. Yes, Cynthia? Do you have any question?
Didn't we take this in 4th grade?
Yes?
We took this in 4th grade, bro.
4th grade?
Yeah,
I don't think
I
so.
know this.
Okay, great. You know this. This is an introduction for our lesson. Okay. Okay, thank you. So each chromatid has a short arm and a long arm. This is the centromere. Centromere is a constructed region near the center of the human chromosome. This is called a centromere at the attachment site of the two sister chromatids. Here the chromosome, they carry the herd gene, the eye color gene, the height gene. They are found on both chromatids at the same loci, at the same position. So a gene is a part of a chromosome, a segment of DNA. It's responsible for the appearance of specific traits, like the hair color gene. Every gene has a specific locus, a specific position on the chromosome. The two sister chromosomes as seen here, these two sister chromosomes, they carry the same gene at the same loci. For example, they have the hair color gene here, they have it also at the same position here. So this is, it's called the loci, the position. Two sister chromatids, they carry the same information, the same loci. So chromosome can be represented by one as one chromatid or one strand. What is an allele? Allele is a version or a form of a gene. For example, gene of the eye color, we have brown eye color, green eye allele, brown eye allele, green eye allele, hazel allele, blue eye allele. All of them, they are alleles. So allele is a version or a form of a gene. Let's make it simple. How can we distinguish between allele and gene? Let's say gene, it's the Mercedes trend. Model سيارة Mercedes. So Mercedes contains C350, C190E, C320, and so on. So these models or these versions, they are called the alleles. For example, gene of the hair color, we have the brown allele, the blonde allele, the red allele, the black allele, and so on. Moving to the different types of cell. Different types of cell we have somatic cells and sex cells, or they are called reproductive cells. Somatic cells, they are diploid cells, meaning that they have two copies of each chromosome, whereas sex cells, they are haploid. They have one copy of each chromosome. All the body cells, they are somatic, except the gametes, whereas the sex cells, they are only the gametes, the sperm in the male and the ovum in the female. In humans, 2n equal to 46 for the somatic cells, while in humans, 1n equal to 23 in the sex cells. And the haploid cell, we have one copy of each chromosome. So number of chromosomes, here 1n equal to 4. Here, we have two copies of each chromosome. So 2n is equal to 6. In diploid cell, there are two copies of each chromosome. They carry the same genes, but they don't have necessarily the same alleles. So they're said to be homologous chromosomes. One of the chromosomes is inherited from the mother, from your mother. For example, chromosome pair number 10 is inherited from my mother. One of them is from my mother, and the second one is from my father. The one inherited from my mother is called maternal. I told them that it's called mama. Mama chromosome is maternal. So maternal mother. While the second one, the other chromosome, is inherited from the father. It's called paternal. I told them it's like papa. So papa and mama. Mama maternal, papa it's paternal. So maternal and paternal chromosomes. So every pair of chromosomes has a paternal origin and a maternal origin. The pair of chromosomes, homologous chromosomes, they carry the same genes, but may or may not be carry the same alleles. If they carry the same alleles, so they are said to be identical. So we said that they are called identical chromosomes. This is a homologous chromosomes, identical sister chromosomes, they carry the same genes and the same alleles. For example, blue eyes and the blue eyes. So here they are identical. Brown eyes and brown eyes, so they are identical. Okay? Here's about the paternal and maternal. The one that came from the father is called paternal. The one that came from the mother is called maternal. So let's start with this small application. Considering the gene of the eye color, if you have two alleles, green allele and brown, the possible combination in different persons are as follows. Maybe maternal is going to be blue and the paternal is going, the maternal is going to be brown and the paternal is going to be brown. or the maternal is brown and the paternal is green, or the maternal is green and the paternal is brown, or both of them, maternal and paternal, they are brown or they are green. So here we are going to talk about something called the identical or unidentical, homozygous or heterozygous. For example, person 1 carry the brown, let's say about the eye color, okay? We said about the eye color, the gene of the eye color. So the gene of the eye color, first one is brown and the brown. We have brown allele from the maternal and brown allele from the paternal. So this is called homozygous because this person is homozygous or it's pure for the eye color. Homozygous is similar to the homogeneous and heterogeneous in chemistry. Homozygous or pure meaning that it has similar alleles. Maternal and paternal, they are similar, they are said to be homozygous or pure. While this person, the second one, has brown allele from the maternal origin from the mother and green allele from the father. So they are said to be heterozygous, or another word is called hybrid. So from now on, they have the same alleles, they are called homozygous or pure. You have to know both terms, homozygous or pure. Or if they carry different alleles, they are said to be heterozygous or hybrid. So this one, person 2 is hybrid. Person 3 also is hybrid since green allele and brown allele, so heterozygous for the eye color. And the fourth person, person number 4, is homozygous since carried 2 green allele, the maternal and the paternal. So when the alleles are identical, the individual is said to be homozygous or pure. When the alleles are different, the individual is said to be heterozygous or hybrid. So please, these notes, you have to take them into consideration before we start our lesson. So this is the introduction to start with our lessons. So you have to know what the meaning of homozygous. If I said homozygous, meaning that carrying the same alleles. If I said heterozygous, different alleles. If I said what the meaning of dominant allele and recessive allele. Dominant allele is the allele that can be expressed in both cases, either homozygous or heterozygous. That's why it's usually symbolized by a capital letter. So it's the strongest one. The strongest is usually symbolized by a capital letter. Let's have an example here. If I have green and the brown, okay? Green and the brown. Which one is dominant? Let's say the green is dominant. So if the green is dominant, the green is going to be expressed, meaning that this person will have green eye color. If the brown is the dominant, he should have brown eye colors. So it depends. Let's move now to recessive alleles. Okay? Recessive alleles. What the meaning of recessive allele? Recessive allele, it's the allele that is expressed in homozygous and heterozygous. So recessive allele is expressed in homozygous and heterozygous. So here, we have a problem here in the annotation. Hamad Ali, you have to stop doing this, okay, please. As I said, dominant allele is the one that is expressed in both homozygous and heterozygous, while the recessive allele is only expressed in the case of homozygous, meaning that if the recessive allele should be expressed, for example, the green allele is recessive. It cannot be expressed unless in the case we have 2 green alleles. So green and the green, so it's recessive, is the weak one. So it should be expressed in the both recessive alleles. So please note that dominant allele is the strong allele. It can be expressed in the case of dominant and the case of homozygous and heterozygous. While the recessive allele cannot be expressed unless we have 2 recessive. It should be 2 weak alleles together in order to be expressed. Considering the gene of the eye color, if the brown allele is dominant over the green allele, so brown allele is dominant is symbolized by B capital. And green allele is recessive, is symbolized by G small. So genotype, maybe we have BB, BG, BG, and GG. Someone is going to ask me, for example, BG and BG, how do they differ? Maybe B from the maternal and G from the paternal, or B from the paternal and G from the maternal. If the brown is dominant, it's symbolized by capital. So brown is dominant. So it should be expressed in both homozygous and heterozygous. So this is the homozygous. It's pure, two identical alleles. So the color is brown. While BG is heterozygous or hybrid. BG is heterozygous. Which one is dominant, the brown or green? The brown is dominant, so it gives a brown. Here, BG, brown is dominant, so it gives a brown. GG is the green allele, it's recessive. It cannot be expressed unless in the case of homozygous. So it should be green unless in the case of homozygous. So you have to give symbols. Let be capital be the symbol of the dominant brown allele over the recessive green allele, and let G small be the symbol of the recessive green allele with respect to the dominant brown alleles. So these are the sets. BB, homozygous, pure, so it's dominant, so it should be brown, two strong together. One was strong in 1 week, one is strong in 1 week, so the strong will dominate, it's the dominant, so the color will be brown, here brown, and the G is the weak one, so it needs another weak allele, so GG will give green eye color. So the set of alleles, we call them genotype, while the expressed color, we call them phenotype. So let's move now to the definition. This is a Freyr's model. Gives definition. This is an example, not an example, or non-example. What is the genotype? Genotype is the set of genes and their alleles. For example, BB, BG, GG, we call them genotype. Whereas blue, tall, small, large, small eyes, large eyes, for example, let's say hairy, gene of thinking, and so on. Every phenotype that is expressed, every trait that is expressed is called the phenotype. Whereas definition of phenotype, it's the set of observed traits resulting from the expression of the genotype. Example about phenotype, tall, short, black, and genotype, it's non-example, BB, BG, GG, and so on. So the difference between phenotype and genotype. Let's move now to the graft. What is a graft? A graft is a transplant of a tissue or an organ from one side to another. This is grafting is transplantation. So what affect the fate of the graft? The fate of the graft depends on similarity of HLA. What is HLA? It's a human leukocyte antigen between the donor and the recipient. If they have high similarity in HLA, so the graft is accepted. Mostly in the case of autograft and isograft, they have identical HLA. And donor is the one that donates. Recipient is the one that receives. Let's start with the different types of grafts. Autograft is a graft that's transferred from one side to another within the same body. Example about this, from my hand to my thigh, it's autograft. While non-example, from my hand to my friend's hand. Isograph, identical. So it's a graph between identical twins. And pay attention. Sometimes you have false idea about twins. For example, identical twins, they are two boys or two girls. These are identical twins. While a boy and a girl, they are called fraternal twins. So fraternal twins, they don't have identical HLA. So isograph is the graph between identical twins, and we have allograft between different individuals and they belong to the same species. For example, from Maya to Rola, from Ali to Mirna, from Mirna to Cynthia, from Hassan to Lean, and so on. So they belong to the same species, human. While the xenograph is a graph that's transferred from an animal to another, from different species. For example, from a cat to a dog, from a dog to a horse, from a horse to a donkey, and so on. So they belong to different species. These are the different types of graft. So we have 4: autograft within the same body, iso, identical twins, allo, different individuals of the same species, and xenograft, different individuals belonging to different species. Also, we identify what the meaning of phenotype and genotype, and we identify dominant and recessive allele, what the meaning of homozygous, heterozygous, and we identified what the meaning of the maternal, paternal alleles, and what the difference between sex cells and somatic cells, and also what is a gene and what is the allele, what is a chromosome, and where the genetic information is located.